Hi, everybody. Richard Shelp with Executive Speakers with ESB Outspoken today, and I have a special guest with us, Mick Ebeling. So Mick, as a career producer and filmmaker and founder and CEO of Not Impossible Labs, he harvests the power of technology and story to change the world. Ebeling found Not Impossible, a multiple award-winning social innovation lab and production company on the premise that nothing is impossible. His mantra of commit, then figure it out allows him to convene a disparate team of hackers, doers, makers, and thinkers to create devices that better the world by bringing accessibility for all. His book, Not Impossible, The Art and Joy of Doing What Couldn't Be Done, was hailed as a unique and inspiring tale of brave abandon by Nicholas Negroponte. There's so many things I could go on and on about this guy, but I want to dive in, but let's just say welcome to Mick.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Love having you here. I think the best way to dive in is to start talking about some of the current projects that you're working on. Everybody wants to hear about what's the latest and greatest with Not Impossible.
Sure. Well, since 2022, I call it 2020, when all of a sudden the world shut down. Not impossible, since we exist to create what we call technology for the sake of humanity. Our pandemic response was to deploy and roll out a food insecurity platform that just transformed how we think about people who are going hungry in this country. And so we rolled out a kind of classic Not Impossible hack solution where we created a way for people who conventionally had to go to soup kitchens or food pantries to get their food. Now, just through simple text messaging, they were able to go into, rather than waiting in a line for hours and hours, now they could go into grocery stores or restaurants and claim meals that were paid for by organizations on the back end.
Oh, I love it.
So someone could walk in with dignity, and they could walk into a place that was geo-proximate to them. So they didn't have to go across town. They could just walk into some place and get a meal or get groceries. But they got to walk in with dignity, and it was simple. It was all via text. So we launched this thing, and went gangbusters. We're feeding hundreds of thousands of people. And then all of a sudden it just went and went even bigger. And
Awesome.
So we now were named a Fast Company world-changing idea. Fortune called us an Impact 20 company, and we received our second. If y'all remember, the iWriter was our first Time Magazine Top 50 invention. Bento was our second. So we're the only entity to have ever won Time Magazine's Top Invention twice.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I had heard about your whole thing with the meals. That is such an ingenious idea. I love it.
Everything that we do at Not Impossible is about how you can challenge and just turn the status quo when it's upside down, right? Or turn it upside in, upside down, inside out. There we go.
Inside out.
Yeah, exactly. So the irony of me mixing that up is not fun for me. So I think that when we look at things like food insecurity, it's like, how can you really recontextualize how innovation can take place within that space? And so that was how we spent 2020. Since that time, and as the world kind of starts to come back together, my kids and I just got sick this last weekend, and no one was worried about COVID. It was just regular sick. So we're like, all right, I think we're done now. I think we're good. It's just the flu. We're not going to die.
Yeah.
But
That's
now
great.
we're working on things around in the Alzheimer's space and cognitive decline, which is a really important concept and topic for me because it's affected my family. I just came back from Ukraine, and coming back from Ukraine, I was called over there to sit on a board for an incredible group called Superhumans that are looking at limb loss because of my work in prosthetics, looking at limb loss and how to really create a center of excellence and a new way of thinking about it. So I'm putting everything I got into that, but then we also said, well, wait a second, what if we didn't just think about what happens after limb loss? What if we moved upstream and started saying, let's get ahead of limb loss? And so we identified one of the biggest causes of limb loss in Ukraine right now are landmines. And so especially civilian limb loss. So now we've deployed, it's a project where we haven't quite figured out the name it's going to be called, but it's kind of Operation Landmine Obsolescence. And what we're figuring out how to do is to mobilize both on the NGO side, the government side, and the defense side, how to unify that knowledge base to look at new ways to identify landmines and then to deactivate them. And when I say deactivate, it also means you get to blow them up, which is the fun part. So we're going to be deploying that, and we're really excited because it's, in the classic Not Impossible way, it's all about really minimizing down our focus on what we're going to do so that we can solve it for one, help many, solve it for one, and then help many after that. So we hope to be kind of in theater by Q4 of this year, where we're actually going to have this incredible brain trust of ideas that we actually get to implement.
I love that. I love the way you guys are thinking through the whole process, which is super. Well, so many of these projects obviously require lots of funding. You got to get partners all the time. Can you tell me about how you guys work through from a funding perspective?
I mean, here's the beautiful thing about Not Impossible. We're lucky enough to be able to get and speak in front of incredible companies. And when companies find out about what we're doing, inevitably the response is, oh my goodness, how can we work together? What can we do together? And so now through those corporate partnerships, they end up being partnerships that lead to us being able to scale out the things we're working on. Sometimes a corporate wants to say, oh my God, I'm really passionate about landmines. I want to be part of that and help you, really roll that out and scale that. Sometimes we start with new projects or new absurdities, but then once we have that, we look at our partners and say, can we do more good? Can we create more impact with this partner?
Gotcha.
And when that's a yes, then you've got great chemistry, because we love to create ways where our partners benefit, either through comms or marketing or HR or innovation. We're working on a lot of innovation projects. If they win and the project gets to really get supercharged to make impact, well, then that's how you affect billions of people.
And it makes them doubly passionate, because not only do they care about what you're solving, but then you're also helping them, which helps their company. So, hey, you can't beat that. That's super. Well, one of my favorite projects that I've seen, and I want you to talk about, because there's a lot of these great projects. You mentioned the iWriter, and that's incredible, some of the things that you guys done. Tell me about Music Not Impossible. Love to hear about that.
So Music Not Impossible is a project that I have been working on for years now, and it's been kind of in our Geppetto's workshop, and we've been tinkering with it, and then we'll roll it out and we'll test it, and then we'll come back and we'll refine it, and we'll roll it out and come back, and we've gotten to the point now where we're kind of stepping away, saying we think that it's ready for mainstream.
Awesome.
And it's based on the premise that first, the absurdity, because there's a core thinking to how we go through our design thinking and our design process. The absurdity was that just because someone can't hear doesn't mean they can't experience music. Because I watched the deaf community hold balls to feel the vibrations. I watched them touch speakers to feel the vibrations, wear no shoes so they could feel the vibrations on the floor. So the music was basically being projected, and they were feeling the vibrations through alternate forms besides the eardrums, which aren't working if you're deaf.
Right.
So we said, what if we went through the skin? And so we created software and hardware that takes music, divides it into its separate channels, projects it to wristbands, ankle bands, and a vest, so that each musical channel is felt on a different part of the skin. So your skin is now the eardrum.
Oh my gosh.
And so now you've got this gigantic eardrum as a receptor, and that sends a signal to the brain. So we did it. We launched it. We launched it with the deaf population and community and music lovers in South by Southwest in Austin. They went bonkers, and then we ran out of deaf people that we knew in our community. So we started trying it out on people who could hear. And we live in Los Angeles, so we were trying it on people like Lady Gaga and Pharrell.
Yeah.
And Pharrell called it the future of music. He said, this is how we will all experience music in the future. And so I remember when he said that, we kind of looked around and we're like, did Pharrell just say that this is the future of music? So we kept rolling that, and we kept building it out. And now we've done events and installations all over the world. This year is going to be one of our biggest years yet. And the crazy thing about it is what started as something to create equality in music.
Right, absolutely.
So that whether you could hear or if you couldn't hear, you could experience music. Now, because you and I, if I'm deaf and you can hear, we both can have this shared music experience. It actually appeals to people who can hear and can't hear. So now the market of people who can really have this incredible experience, it's the whole world. And now
unbelievable.
Yeah. And so we're incredibly excited about that, because now you're talking about creating equality within the space of music, as opposed to just like a new toy.
The thing that just really gets me in all this is the deaf population, them experiencing it. Mm-hmm. So have any of them explained to you kind of how they experience it?
Oh yeah. And it's so funny, because if you can hear, having somebody who can't hear feel it, we can't relate. We can empathize. We can kind of try to relate. We can, but we were asked so many times, hey, so are you actually making it so people can hear? And our answer, as we were taught by now this incredibly passionate deaf community who supports Music Not Impossible, is like, this is not about fixing us. We don't want to be fixed. we experience the world in our way.
Right.
And you experience it in your way. And now we have a shared way of experiencing it. So they were teaching us like, no. You want it to feel this way, and you want this intensity or this. And so they became really neck and neck, arm in arm with us, collaborators on what that experience can be. And you know who benefits from it? The people who can hear. So our deaf population of loyal followers and collaborators are actually making it so that when you and I experience it, we have a more
I love that, because that's a whole new sense that we're taking advantage of. You don't you're feeling
my vibrations right now on your skin.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling your vibrations on my skin, but our skin and our brains are too dumb to be able to interpret it. What we've created with Music Not Impossible is the precursor to us and our brains, from a Darwinistic point of view, evolving to where we might be able to read those vibrations in the future. So this is something that we see as an evolutionary device. Now we're talking years from now. Sure. This is not happening next year, but we're now starting to educate the brain and teach the brain of like, oh, that's what that note feels like. And now the brain starts to create that understanding.
And then you do get the full experience once that happens.
Yeah.
You have literally blown my mind. I'm just going to tell you. Okay, real quick, because I know we got to wrap this up, because I could talk to you like this for hours probably.
Sure.
But these special individuals that work with you, that are part of your team, these doers, these hackers, these thinkers that make some of this stuff possible, is there people that are out there, types of people that you haven't gotten a chance to put on a team that you would love to have for some of your future projects?
Yeah, everybody asks, how do you pick your team of misfit, geniuses and mad scientists?
Yeah.
It starts first with its attitudinal. Like, you gotta come to the table with this attitude of it. We are going to solve this thing. There's no questions asked. And you have to have this belief that we are going to convert something from impossible to possible. After that, then it's a question of the skill sets and the perspectives. If we're solving something that is, say, for example, with Music Not Impossible, or with Alzheimer's, the big cognitive decline project that we're working on right now, or landmines, we want to have a portion of those collaborators have an expertise in there, but not a majority of the collaborators.
Gotcha.
Because the whole point is we want to have a new and fresh perspective. We want to challenge the status quo. We want to see innovation have a chance to kind of take root and grow. And we're talking grow fast, Jack and the Beanstalk fast.
Yeah.
If you have too much historical perspective on what works and what doesn't work, it stymies that spirit of innovation.
Makes sense.
We regulate and encourage and welcome, but contain the historical perspectives so that you have new perspectives that have a chance to take root.
Makes great sense. Makes great sense. Such a tough thing to find those perfect people for it, but you guys are doing such a great job of it. Unbelievable. I don't even want to cut this short, but we've got to, and I would just tell you the things that you're working on, fantastic. The things in the past, what you've got coming up. Us just keeping informed of what you're doing will always be great, but keep doing what you're doing. Never stop going after the not impossibles. And I'll tell you what, thanks again, Mick, for being here with us. And you guys out there, think about all these things. Join with Mick on something, and you be outspoken.